Howdy, folks. Today we'll be talking with Jeff Ferris of Gardening Naturally, radio gardening show here, and we're going to be discussing the many garden myths or hearsay, we might
Old
say, out
wise
there.
tales, you can put a whole list of names to them.
Well, it's not going to be an exhaustive list, but we're going to do our best.
There's not enough time to go through the whole list.
These were put together by some requests by our followers, and then some of them are ones that we've had, I think, gardeners experience quite a bit. So let's start with perennials last forever.
By definition, a perennial will live more than 2 seasons.
Right.
But that may be all it lives. It could be 3 years. There are trees that are 5,000 years old, and there are perennials in our garden that after 3 years, it's still a perennial, but it may die out on you. So it shouldn't always be an assumption that a plant's going to be around as long as you expect it to be. So you should be prepared for a possible change in your garden.
The flip side of that would be that sometimes annuals will last longer than a year.
That's true. The difference may be is that some of these plants reseed, and you think it's still the same plant.
Well, what about, let's talk about the essentially the bedrock, so to speak, of gardening, the soils.
Rock.
So if you're looking at, you're going to start landscaping your yard or work on a garden, do you need to completely overhaul your soils every single time?
No. And first off, what are you going to grow? Because there are so many native Texas plants that thrive in the soil you may have.
Right.
So if you're going to plant many of our natives, you may not need to do any work. If you are suddenly trying to plant things that you normally wouldn't see here, you may have a ton of work to do. And the problem is that no matter how hard you work, Texas soil is always going to be fighting you to try to return to what it started by. So this is never one time add some stuff to the soil and I'm done. It's a constant process.
Some of the common, misnomers or myths, we might say, are, maybe if you have really heavy clay soil, you're going to add some sand and that's going to help it.
Well, if you have clay and you add sand to it, we call that mortar. So that's probably not a good idea. Usually you can improve clay, but it's not this simple process of simply adding sand. Organic materials, there are some things like gypsum can help break up the clay plates, but you don't want to just dump a ton of sand in there. It's a long process.
Right.
And you will probably be more successful by planting plants in there and slowly working up to the plants that you want in the garden.
I know when you're adding things to soils, a lot of these things, they might work, but it would require so much material. And so specifically for sand, I just looked up, I think it's something like a quarter of a cubic yard per 10, 11 square feet of clay. That adds up to
That's
a large
lot.
area.
That's a lot of work. And the effort trying to get it to your home, and the end result still may not satisfy you.
Sure. You're talking about adding organic material, something that does work. Let's talk about compost.
Always a good choice. The biology of the soil is actually what makes everything work.
Right.
The nutrients that are in there, the biology converts them to a form the plants can use. Organic matter is food for the biology.
Right.
Keep them happy, keep them well fed, and everybody's going to work well together. Makes those little spaces so the soil will drain properly, so the roots can easily grow. That's a much better addition to any kind of soil to improve it, is to add a good quality compost. And, always here, the compost you make is the best compost to start with. Not everybody can do that, but there are plenty of soil yards and places. Local independent nurseries carry great compost.
If you're looking at manipulating soils or amending them, then really the best thing I think would start out is taking some samples and submitting that to your county extension office, just for you to get an idea of what you're starting with.
You wouldn't start a road trip without a map. That first soil sample doesn't tell you anything other than what direction do I need to go.
Right.
It's a great investment, and it doesn't need to be done every month, maybe not even every year, but it gives you that starting point so you know what's the next step I should be doing to get that return quickly. It's a good investment. It's simple to do. It's usually very inexpensive, but it tells you where you're at so you know where you want to go.
And then what about, there are a lot of myths out there about compost tea. What are your thoughts?
This is a really difficult one because the natural breakdown of organic matter does produce some biologies we don't like.
Right.
Botulism is one of those that can occur, E. coli, etc. Many of the biologies that exist in the compost, that make the compost, that exist in our soil, the idea behind compost tea is like you're making a starter mix.
Right.
You're brewing up, and hopefully mostly the good ones.
Right.
I think that that is a possibility for improving the soil by the inoculant factor.
Okay.
I kind of question, and the data's not real good on this.
Sure.
When I spray it on a plant, am I getting a benefit where I'm getting more protective bacteria? Am I defeating funguses or diseases? That's out
Not
there
so much,
yet. That's
yeah.
not as clear as some of the other ideas. I don't see a harm in using it to build up your soil, but we may not want to consider it a silver bullet.
Okay. Well, let's jump along to weeding. So, you know, I know that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. A lot of people think I go out there to the store, I buy some landscape fabric, and then I don't ever have to weed again.
Landscape fabric, every time I have ever seen it used, becomes that base to allow the weed to get a really good grip on the fabric so that you can never pull it out of the ground. I understand why people use it. I think it's a poor choice.
Right.
Just as effective, I believe, is used cardboard.
Right.
It's free.
Right.
It will naturally break down, and the weeds can't get a grip in it. I think it's a better way to recycle, but the landscape fabric, I've only seen it cause problems because the weeds will grow through the little holes in it, and then you can't get rid of it.
Right. So I know a rule of thumb that we use is that if it's something that water can really get through, well, then roots can get through.
True. True.
Watering. That's another big one here, right? So some people say you should water during certain times of the day, or you should only water following a schedule. Let's start with I shouldn't water in the middle of the day because it's going to burn my plant up.
If you're thirsty, do you go get a drink when you're thirsty? If your plant's thirsty, it's fine to water it then.
Right.
It is more important, it's less important about the when and more important about the how.
Right.
I don't want to stand there and spray for 2 seconds and assume my plant's been watered.
Sure.
I want to soak the ground well, and I want it to soak in deep. If I follow that practice, I won't have to water as much. It's not so much the time that I'm doing it, it's more that am I putting the right amount of water in the right spot so it soaks into the soil.
A lot of people think that if I'm working on my gardening and I'm pruning some trees, whether it be fruit trees or ornamental, I've got to get a big whopping can of paint and spray every single cut.
This has been a practice that 25, 50 years ago, you never made a cut without covering the wound.
Right.
Arborists have gotten together, and over the years they've discovered that when you cut a branch off a tree, the tree treats it just like a cut on your body. Your body will release platelets, stop you from bleeding. The tree releases sap and coats the wound and seals itself.
Right.
We still paint oak trees. That's about the only one that we talk about.
Caveat, yeah.
But all the other trees, we can leave them be. The disease risk, the pressures on the tree are very low. There's no significant benefit to painting. And even the oak trees, you don't need to use that gooey black asphalt.
Right.
Any kind of spray latex paint will work fine.
Some people think organic versus non or natural is safer. What are your thoughts?
The pros and cons are most of the organic products will break down faster. Sunlight's really good at getting rid of the organics, while some of the conventional products may last in the garden for a very, very long time. Now the idea is, well, they're killing bugs. Yeah, well, if you ever pick up a bottle of a conventional product and it says, I kill 50 bugs, and you look at that list, they're all bad bugs. Well, they don't tell you all the good bugs they're killing.
Sure.
So it has this carryover effect. Nicotine used to be an organic product we used in the garden. It only takes about a gram of nicotine to kill a 200-pound adult.
Wow.
So even though it's organic, it can be just as dangerous. Regardless of the product you use, you read the directions, you wear the proper safety gear, and you apply it only when you actually need it. Right. There's no benefit to go out there and spray your garden every single day if there's nothing causing you a problem.
Sure. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for stopping by today to hit on the many, many topics that there are myths in gardening. It's been, I think, extremely interesting for me, and our guest will hopefully write us in a whole bunch more that we can address in the future.
I'm quite sure that the list is very, very long, but it's a start.
All righty. Well, next, Daphne's up with Down to Earth.